What is good, y'all? Welcome back to the Heat Report. Welcome back to a brand new video. We are back with a brand new video for you guys. We're going to be talking about free agency in the offseason for the Miami Heat. Just started yesterday at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking about everything the Miami Heat should be looking at, why this is going to be a little bit of a challenging offseason for the Heat with all their, cap restrictions and lack of assets, as well as talking about exactly what to expect from this team. So make sure y'all leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Day one of the offseason has completed. We've seen a lot of moves, but none really to the Miami Heat. Kevin Love re-signed on a 2-year, $4 million dollar contract annually, so $8 million plus, I believe, is what the contract is totally. Pretty solid. I think we were all expecting Kevin Love to come back. I just thought it was going to be on a more team-friendly deal. I thought when he opted out, it was because he's going to try to, take a pay cut or something like that. But, he got $4 million. That's fine. And I think he only opted out because he was trying to get himself more years on his contract. So he's back. Jay Rich accepted his player option. We're probably going to have to deal with losing Caleb Martin in free agency for nothing, which sucks because we had the opportunity, if we wanted to trade him at the deadline. But, hindsight is 20/20. The team didn't know that we were going to be injured in the playoffs. So even though I was on the camp of trading him, I made videos about how we should have moved Caleb for Dorian Finney-Smith or some picks or something like that. I understand why we didn't. I'm not going to be super mad at the front office for that because, they couldn't have predicted that we were all going to be injured in the playoffs. They probably thought we had a realistic shot to compete for something with Caleb healthy. So, and with the whole roster healthy. So, he's probably walking for nothing. So, it's going to be tough, man. Just quick Caleb tribute, I guess. Really, really good player for us at times. He was one of the biggest reasons we even went to the finals in 2023, had a heroic Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. We'll never forget what he did for this team. He was one of the really most fun role players to watch that we've had in a while. So all the best to him. I don't think we're going to be able to bring him back. So wherever team he goes to, I hope he balls out. And I think he will. He's always going to make an impact no matter what team he's on. That's what the type of player he is. And yeah, that's the small, minute details of what we've gotten for the Heat in free agency so far. But we're going to be talking about why it's going to be really tough to acquire some of these players that we want. So in free agency itself, we don't really have the cap space necessary to acquire anybody that is going to be wanting more than a mid-level exception or a veterans minimum. We are over we're in the first apron right now, but we're almost, to the second apron. The only reason we're not over the second apron is because we only have 11 players on the team. So once you fill out a roster, the Heat will probably be back over the second apron. So because of that, they just do not have the financial, capability of signing the players that are available in free agency unless it's the veteran minimum players or the mid-level exception players. That's it. I think they have one mid-level exception. The rest are all veteran minimums that they can offer. So do not expect this team to make any big splashes in free agency. I think that's pretty much what I'm trying to say here. People are going to get mad when people sign to different teams. Realistically, we wouldn't be able to sign anybody who has been signed on day one. Maybe somebody takes a mid-level exception to compete for a championship, but I don't know. We'll see. I heard DeMar DeRozan's trying to do that with the Lakers, so maybe another player tries to do that with the Heat. I don't know. But yeah, that is free agency. The biggest scoop on free agency is the fact that we are not probably going to be big players in free agency at all. We're probably just going to sign a few guys. I saw D'Anthony Melton, Troy Brown Jr., a few other guys I believe I had seen who are going to be looking in the veterans minimum or middle level exception market. So people like that, role players, low to high end role players, at best is probably what you're going to get in free agency. Now, the only avenue to really improve this roster is through a trade. The only problem with that is there are pieces that might be available this offseason. Off the top of my head, there's at least 5 pieces that I would be I would want the Heat to go out and get. Donovan Mitchell, Lauri Markkanen. Today, the news just broke that apparently the Jazz are, probably going to trade him. That's what Windhorst said. So yeah, Donovan Mitchell, Lauri Markkanen, Trae Young. Who else was it? Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram. Those 5. Now, Zach LaVine is probably my least favorite out of the 5 options because his contract is so big. But Chicago looks to be just giving him away for nothing. And they're even apparently attaching a pick on top of Zach LaVine to give him up. So if the Bulls are doing all that, I mean, if his value is that low, and if they're even giving us a first-round pick on top of that, I think it's a deal that I would do. I think it's worth the risk because, especially if you don't have to give up anything really, you probably just have to give up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and that'll make the money match, and they'll probably give you Zach LaVine and a pick or two, and I think that's how the deal can go. I think his value is that low where they'll even give you a pick or maybe 2 picks on top of, his contract. And he's still a really good player. I still believe in him, in his ability. Even if he's coming off an injury, like I really do think he's a really talented player, and he's always been a talented player. So I would take the chance on him, but my first options is obviously Donovan Mitchell and Trae Young. Those two are like my 1A, 1B. Then you have like Lauri Markkanen, and then Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine, I think are in one tier. Brandon Ingram, Zach LaVine are in one tier because I'm not as big on Brandon Ingram. I was, but I feel like in the past 2 seasons he's been a little disappointing, and it hasn't even been due to injury, just because of his play. So, so that's like my tier list of guys that I would want the Heat to get. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of assets to work with. I believe we have 1 tradable first round pick right now. The second pick that we have apparently has to be, there's protections on that pick that have to be unlocked. So at max, we'll have 2 tradable first round picks. We have Hero's contract, and we have him. We have Hero. We have Duncan Robinson's contract. And then the young guys that we have, Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic. I'm not sure if Khalil Ware even can be traded or if they even want to trade Khalil Ware, but we have Khalil Ware. But yeah, just let's just put Khalil Ware to the side. I don't think he's going to be traded. But Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and 1, maybe 2 picks is what we have to offer, and maybe some swaps. That's all we have to offer. So if a team, if there's going to be a bidding war for these players, we're probably going to lose the bidding war. So Donovan Mitchell is what I believe the Heat have hoped for all offseason. I believe they're just waiting on his news, whether they're going to sign an extension with the Cavs or not. And I think Donovan Mitchell will sign an extension with the Cavs, but from what I've seen, he's just waiting for the Cavs to make some moves in free agency because he wants them to be aggressive, but he does want to sign an extension with them. That's what I've seen. And there is a world where all of these guys just go back to the teams that they're on. Like, there's a world that none of these guys get traded. Like, I'm not sure how realistic it is for Trae Young to be traded. I've seen people talking about, because I've been going to Hawks fans on like Twitter, Reddit, and just like seeing what they've been saying. And a lot of them are under the assumption that they're going to keep Trae Young and that they're going to build around Trae Young. And the DeJounte Murray trade was literally just to get off of DeJounte Murray and get in some more point of attack defenders and shooting around Trae Young. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if Trae Young is going to be traded or not. I mean, I think if he is, we would be a pretty good fit for him. I think he would want to come here. He's always talked highly of the Heat, and he's always talked highly of Spo. But if he's going to be traded, I have no idea. It's really up to Atlanta. I think it could go either of 2 ways. Like, either the DeJounte Murray trade, because I thought that they were going to be getting Brandon Ingram from that trade. So if they didn't get Brandon Ingram, I was like, maybe they're trying to move off of Trae Young. They're just trying to go into a rebuild. But apparently, from what I'm seeing from a lot of Hawks fans, they want to surround Trae Young with defenders and shooters and no other primary ball handler to mess with his rhythm. So I don't know. That's up in the air. Lauri Markkanen, I thought he was going to be pretty much extended by Utah, but I guess Brian Windhorst came up with this big nugget today that GMs around the league are expecting him to be moved. Now, listen, Lauri Markkanen is going to be a little tough to get Lauri Markkanen because there was already a report from Woj saying that it's going to take a lot to get Lauri Markkanen. Like, the trade package is going to be very big. That's what Woj said. So you already have that, and on top of that, the GM of the Utah Jazz is Danny Ainge, and he doesn't like the Heat or Pat Riley. So you also have like another Joe Cronin type situation from last year. So he's probably the least likely besides Donovan Mitchell, because I think Donovan Mitchell is going to sign an extension with Cleveland. I think those two are probably the least likely for us to get. Brandon Ingram is interesting. Apparently they want to extend Brandon Ingram, but he wants a max extension, and they don't want to give him a max extension, the Pelicans. So they're working to find a middle ground. If they don't find a middle ground, he'll probably be traded. But they would like to keep him, is what Woj said. We'll see what happens with BI. I mean, I think he's a lot less likelier to sign an extension than D. Mitch is because he wants a max, and I'm not sure if the Pelicans want him to get a max, so they might just move him right now, even with acquiring DeJounte Murray to compete. And Zach LaVine, like I said, the last player on this list, he's probably the easiest to go out and get. I mean, he makes the most money, which is a little tough, but I think if you're getting draft capital on top of Zach LaVine, like we don't even have draft assets in the first place, we wouldn't have to give up a single first round pick in this trade. Like, his value is so low where you don't have to give up any picks. You give up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, that matches the money, and then they give you Zach LaVine in 1 or 2 picks, maybe a first and a second, and that gets the deal done. And I would do that trade just because, you don't have to give up any draft capital or any young assets. Hero and Zach LaVine, I think Zach LaVine's a lot better than Hero, so you're upgrading there. And I know we're losing out on Duncan Robinson shooting, but they just drafted Pelle Larsson. They still have Cole Swider. Zach LaVine can shoot the ball really well. I think they'll be okay. So that's the most realistic, likely move that I see. Zach LaVine or Trae Young, I think are the two most likely. Depending on what the Hawks do with Trae Young, I think if Trae Young does request a trade or get traded, his value is not set to be high either. And I do know that there are teams like the Spurs who might want Trae Young, or the Lakers, but the Spurs are the only team out of the three of us, the Lakers and the Spurs, that I can see that outbid us. I don't think the Lakers can outbid us. The Spurs definitely can. They have young assets and they have picks, but I don't even know if the Spurs want Trae Young. They just drafted Stephon Castle. Even though he's not a full-time point guard, him and Trae Young won't work on the floor together just because Stephon Castle needs the ball in his hands. I mean, he can cut and stuff like that, but I think they drafted Stephon Castle. They just signed Chris Paul as well. I'm not sure how realistic getting Trae Young is for the Spurs. So it really just could be us if we were to, if Trae Young were to get traded from the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm looking at Trae Young and Zach LaVine as the two most realistic options. I think Mitchell is going to ultimately go back to Cleveland, unfortunately. I think Lauri Markkanen is going to be extremely tough to trade for. You have the fact that Utah already wants a big package. On top of that, you have Danny Ainge that we have to dealing with, and the Brandon Ingram thing is a complete wild card situation. He might go back to New Orleans. He might get traded. We don't know. I don't know enough information about the whole Brandon Ingram situation, so I'm just gonna put that to the side until they come out with some more details about the extension that they might offer him. So that is the deal. I am a little bit not disappointed, but I do understand a lot of people's concerns with the fact that every other team is improving in the East, and they are. Right now, if I were to be realistic, I don't think we're top 3, top 4 in the East. You're looking at everyone improving. The Celtics are obviously the reigning champions. The Knicks improved massively. The Sixers improved massively. The Magic didn't improve massively, but I thought KCP was a really good pickup for them. You still have Milwaukee. Indiana made the conference finals last season. Cleveland's going to re-sign Donovan Mitchell. East is going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and you don't want the Heat to sit around doing nothing. I think they have to be active in the trade market. I think free agency is going to be a complete dud for them because they just don't have any money to give out to players. We don't have the space to afford any of these guys. All we're going to get is, it's going to be very similar to 2021 where we signed, or 2020 offseason where we signed Avery Bradley, Mo Harkless. Hopefully they play better, the people we sign now, because I think we will sign somebody. We have 4 spots I think we have to fill up. I don't think Thomas Bryant is going to be back, and I don't think Caleb Martin's going to be back. I don't think Jamal Cain's going to be back. Haywood Highsmith could be back, but who knows? So yeah, this is the whole deal right now. It's a little bit of a tough spot that the Heat are in. They've put themselves in this tough spot. I'm not gonna lie. I think one thing I wish the Heat will address next season is the contracts that they give out. We just don't have any tradable contracts on this team for anybody for a role player or any star who makes less than $20 million. Our contracts are 5 contracts that make $20 million plus, and everybody else's minimums or rookie deals and mid-level exceptions. We don't have anybody in the 10 to 20 range who makes that sort of money, from 10 million to 20 million a year. We don't have anybody like that, and it makes it really hard to make a move when you don't have guys like that who you can attach to pieces and use them as tradable contracts. And we don't even have draft capital like that, so they've kind of put themselves in this tough position. But they've done that because, they wanted to, get Jimmy and get Terry Rozier, and get Kyle Lowry and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, they're just gonna have to pivot now. They're gonna have to get one of these 5 names that I said. I don't know if any other really star is gonna be on the market. Zach LaVine is probably the worst star caliber player that's gonna be on there. And then, you go from there. So we'll see what happens, man. Make sure y'all drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know who you would like the Heat to trade for and your thoughts on free agency. And y'all see you later as always, man. Peace.